Hello and welcome again to another episode of One Starfish, where our mission is to change the world one starfish or one person at a time. As always, make sure to rate, review, subscribe, share this, how we get the word about what we do. The guy I have on today, I just met him. He went on a long thing of all the stuff he's doing, so we'll get into that on the podcast. But welcome to the show, David Williams. Real quick bio on David. He got in the entrepreneurship space after 2009, now runs multiple businesses, insurance, recruiting, real estate, and educating kids on, faith, finance, freedom, all that kind of good stuff, which sounds amazing. I'm excited to get into that one. Welcome to the show, David.
Yeah, no, thank you for having me on. It's a pleasure to be here.
Awesome. Well, let's get into what got you into the entrepreneur space. You mentioned you had lost your job when we chatted before. There was a disability
absolutely.
involved. So yeah.
That's it. But, big thing, always been a big person of faith that's guided me throughout my whole life. And, I feel like, a lot of times our prayers in life are answered in the form of opportunities. And that's really, I didn't realize it at the time, but that's what happened to me and what started my entrepreneurial journey. So I was an executive at Circuit City back in 2009. I was in my own bubble, kind of climbing the corporate ladder, so to speak, doing really well. It was one of my first jobs out of college, and moved up the ranks pretty quick and became one of the youngest store managers in Circuit City history. So here I am on this path trying to become a district manager. And then just like many of us, sometimes life happens, right? So I woke up one day and I couldn't walk. My ankles were just swelling up, ballooned up. I had this severe chronic pain throughout my entire body, just inflammation. They didn't know what was going on with me. I was walking on crutches. And then finally, my district manager came in and said, like, Dave, you got to go off on disability and get well. So I did that. And they diagnosed me with a rare autoimmune issue where doctors said, hey, Dave, I want to give you the stark reality that, most people at some point, it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when, end up on long-term disability. And that was kind of the label that I was casted with. And, that wasn't the first time I've encountered labels. I grew up with that as a kid. I grew up with learning disability as a kid, wouldn't amount to much unless I took up a trade, wasn't strong academically. I just learned a little bit different when I was younger. So here I was again at the face of labels, this time with my doctor. And I had this tipping point in my life. It was either, listen to that and be a guy that lives on disability, or try to figure out a way through it and create a different path in my life. So I got to the 6-month mark where they couldn't hold my job anymore at Circuit City. And it was either come back to work, even though I wasn't ready health-wise, or, live into that label. So I pushed through it, came back to work, dealing with health issues. Now I was dealing with financial issues because I wasn't getting paid for 6 months being off of work. And then I get back to work and I'm slowly getting in the swing of things, pushing through my health challenges. And then all of a sudden, got rocked again. I had a customer walk into Circuit City and they're like, I'm so sorry. I'm like, well, what are you sorry about? Well, we turned on the news. We found out, just as our customers did, they were closing down every Circuit City store, laying off 25,000 people. So that was my career of almost 10 years, and it just rocked my world because now, I'm about to be jobless and unemployed. I'm dealing with health issues, and I'm still dealing with all these financial issues. And it was kind of like a triple threat that I was facing all at once. And, I mentioned I've always been a big proponent of faith. So, I prayed on it, and luckily I had the clarity at the time to pay attention, and came across a friend of the family that was in the insurance business and he was doing really well, young kid. And I said to myself, if he can do it, I can do it. I knew I couldn't work in retail anymore. I couldn't work for anybody else. If I was going to deal with my health challenges and, start the next thing, it had to be on my own terms. So I started getting my insurance license at night while Circuit City was going out of business, prayed on it some more. And then, I feel like it was God's design, because about 2-3 weeks later, there was an insurance brokerage in that very same shopping mall about 100 feet away from Circuit City, across from a DMV. Great location. And I just knew the operator in there wasn't putting in the work. They were going out of business because of that. And spoke it into existence that was going to be my location as I was getting my insurance license. Now, keep in mind, everybody's telling me, Dave, don't do it. Most businesses fail. Dave, you're sick. You're surely going to fail with your health issues. And I had to tune a lot of that out and just keep pushing forward. And then the last piece I just didn't have, obviously it's important to start a business, was money. I was in a place where, that was scarce. And I had some medical debt that stacked up too that I had to take care of. So about 2, 3 weeks later, the liquidators came into Circuit City and they're like, Dave, all the open merchandise, the customer displays, the returns, whatever, we got to just get rid of pennies in the dollar, whatever you could get. And that was my aha moment, my opportunity. I said, what if I made it easy and I just bought up everything from every Circuit City store within 4 hours of here? They agreed, and took the last $7,000 in my name, bought up about 70, 80,000 worth of electronics, filled up truckloads, brought it home, filled my living room to the ceiling. Forgot to call and tell my wife. She came home and she was like, what's going on? Sees Circuit City in the living room. There was no living room left. And I'm like, trust me, this is going to be the way. So I started organizing it all in my basement, started listing it all online on eBay, arbitraged it on sites like eBay and other online sites, and ended up paying off all my medical debt and raising the minimal capital I needed to start my first insurance agency. And, we started with zero revenue. I had 2 employees with me and had enough working capital to survive literally 60 days. If I didn't hit the ground running quick, we would be out of business as fast as we were in business. So, all the skills that I learned at Circuit City, when I thought I was starting over, they all kind of came to fruition and served me very well, and just started doing what I did best, was my own best salesperson, and pulling people out of line at the DMV with my 2 employees next to me. And I'd say the best way I was able to train them was through osmosis and just showing up every single day, putting in 16-hour days, working around the clock. But before we knew it, we were one of the top in the region, became one of the top in the company. Fast forward, we actually scaled that business to 22 million in reoccurring revenue, and from zero. And, a big part of I'd say why and my purpose, what I did before all of that, when I was told that the business was going to fail, I cut myself a check for $1 million. Now, I didn't have that in my account, but it was a visual. So I had a goal to chase, and I wasn't chasing it for the money, but it was the vehicle that $1 million check, the act of cashing that, could create for me in my life. I knew I needed a life where I could be on my own terms. I could have the money I needed to take care of my health in a different way, take care of my wife the way she deserved to be taken care of, and then give back to my heroes, which were my mom and dad. Growing up, we didn't come from a lot of money. Matter of fact, I had a brother that went down the wrong path that's no longer with us. And my dad really took that to heart. And he was an entrepreneur, and he worked around the clock 7 days a week just to afford the things that he couldn't afford. He didn't want my sister and I to get into the same trouble my brother did. So he just worked and worked and worked to pay for my baseball lessons that he couldn't afford, pay for her music lessons he couldn't afford. So I watched all that growing up and knew that he never saved for retirement, never put new clothes on his back, never took a vacation. And, when it got into the later years, I knew that I had to be the guy in my family tree that changed the trajectory, that changed the financial trajectory, so I could take care of them and, build a legacy for our family. So I was able to, cash that check probably 6 months earlier. I wanted to do it by the age of 35. I did it by 34 and a half, and allowed me to be in a place, take care of all my parents' bills, take them on vacations and trips of their dreams, hand them the keys to their first brand new Cadillac. And then just a few years ago here, we moved them to Sarasota, Florida. One of the proudest moments of my life, handed them the keys to their brand new retirement home that we were blessed to pay cash for, and moved them out here to Florida to be with their grandson. So, we kind of took a dim situation of, health issues, all this different adversity that I was dealing with, financial issues, lost my job. I think, a lot of times when we're in those moments in our life, and we've all been in those moments, again, I turn to my faith in those moments, and even in the good times. And I think it's important to pay attention, because a lot of times our prayers, again, are answered in the form of those opportunities. We just got to have the clarity to lean in and put in the work. And I was blessed to get that opportunity to put in the work that allowed me to build that insurance agency up. And then later, after we exited that first company, take the capital and start some other ventures. So we started back up in an insurance world, grew that even to a bigger business with business partners, Started a staffing and recruiting company that became the number one staffing and recruiting company in the insurance space. And we later developed and launched a couple software companies, got into the real estate space, started stacking and racking all of our profits into real estate as our investment mechanism. And then most recently, because all of our companies in some way, shape, or form are for purpose, where we give back to our community, we wanted to start a project that was more meaningful when it came to impact. And a good mentor, friend of mine, Tim Story, I was talking with him about it. I was like, everything we learned that got us to the place that we are in life now, it all came through like a mentor, it came through a mastermind. That's when, really started investing in self-development when my career really took off. I was like, imagine if we had that when we were kids, because we didn't learn any of these things in school. Where would we be? And I was like, you know what? We should start something like that. So we put on a free 2-day live event to kick it off, broke a Guinness World Record for the most amount of parents and kids to learn about financial literacy together. And then that launched our mastermind that we're slowly starting to grow out now for kids and parents, just filling in the gaps of what's missing in our education system. That's a big passion for me because, when I was a kid, I was in that education system. I was labeled. I didn't learn any of the things that I needed to learn. Same thing with my brother. He didn't learn any of the things that he needed to learn. As a matter of fact, his principal told him, hey, there's the door, because some behavior issues in school. He took the door and he never came back. And, that led to his spiral. And I figured, how many other kids are out there like my brother, Gary Williams, that I can maybe get to before they go down that path and help them discover their passion and their purpose in life that so many kids are not blessed to discover, help teach them a lot of things that allow people in life to thrive rather than just survive. You look at the statistics out there of ages 25 and under, 78% of kids 25 and under got subprime credit scores and they're paycheck to paycheck. To me, that's not the American dream. And I think we're selling the wrong thing to these kids that, hey, go out and get your first house, get your first car, get that iPhone. Before you know it, you're check to check and you can barely survive. But what if instead we flipped the script and taught them a little bit different way to have delayed gratification and those sort of things? And maybe your first home is a duplex or a fourplex, and you live in one side of it, and then you're renting out the rest of the units, and the passive income from that, whether you're long-term renting or Airbnb, is now paying for your place to live. It's paying for your car. Everybody doesn't have to be an entrepreneur, but you could have real estate on the side like that. And then that's paying for your lifestyle through the passive income. And then when you go to work, the rest of that is gravy. So everything you're getting from work in your W-2 is allowing you to thrive rather than just trying to survive like so many people out there. So that's, my background, where I came from, where I'm at today, and, where my heart is.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, the way you go through everything, it makes it sound really easy. So I'd love you to touch on what's one or two obstacles that you ran into that you had to overcome in order to get to where you wanted to go.
Yeah, I think, one thing that, a lot of people got to overcome is one of the most common challenges I see out there is, we live in a world of instant gratification. We want everything overnight. And I think a lot of people don't realize anything good, and especially if it's great, it sure as heck doesn't come easy. It might look that way on social media when you see people with the Lambos and there's the overnight success, but I found, overnight success typically comes after 10 years of hard work. And there's a parable that my mentor, Tim Story always shares in, building a business and, building a life by design. I think it's a lot like having a farmer mentality. And you think up what's the makeup of a great farmer that has a great harvest? What do they got to do? They got to have a lot of faith. They got to come in, they got to plow and till their land. They got to plant their seed. But then when they do that, that's where the faith component comes in, because they got to show up every single day. They got to water and tend to their land, and they got to water and tend their field without seeing an ounce of progress. Because what's happening for a farmer, it's all happening beneath the surface, right? You got to have faith that what's happening beneath the surface is coming to fruition. And if they show up maybe one day and decide not to water, or 3 days, it's just that 1, 2, or 3 days of not showing up that could kill the crop. But by showing up every single day and being consistent every single day and watering and tilling and fertilizing, it might take weeks, it might take months. Might even take a year. But then all of a sudden you start to see things come from below the surface to above the surface, and they have that big crop of abundance. But it takes persistence, consistency, trusting the process, having a little bit of faith, and just showing up every single day. And the compounded effect of that every single day is what leads to success and what leads to better versions of ourselves, better life, our life by design, and getting our business to where it needs to be. And I look at that as one of the biggest points of failure for people, because they maybe put in the work for, hey, I'm putting it in for a couple of weeks, or I put it in for a couple months or 6 months, and I didn't see it. So I quit and moved on to the next thing. And then that becomes life for them, where right before they might have seen that success, they give up and they're going on to the next thing because it didn't happen overnight or didn't happen easy. But I think when people start to understand that failure and patience, that's part of the process. And if you just keep putting in the work every single day, even though you can't see it, it's going to lead to that end destination that we'd have a lot more people, hanging in there and, living the life of their dreams.
That's awesome. So on the days that you don't want to continue going, what keeps you going?
Yeah, so I got a whole routine in a framework that keeps me going there. So I got a morning mantra that I'll do every single day to try to stay in alignment what's most important to me. And I think another thing is just doing what I love. I try to stay in the lane of doing what I love more than often, so it just doesn't feel like work. And what I love to do is just love to create, love to build. So when I'm building my companies by design now, it wasn't always this way, but I slowly learned that I can't just build. If I want to do more in this world, if I want to impact the world at the level that I need to, I can't build a business around me that's solely dependent on me. So I started shifting the way that I built my businesses so I could stay in a place of being that visionary, being that creator, to be able to go on to maybe the next company, the next venture, the next philanthropy project. So now when I go into the company, I go in there myself and I'll master that role, but I'll have somebody alongside me. I'll master that sales role until I have somebody that's maybe 60 to 70% at my level. Go on to the next position, operations position, leadership position, until I make my way around every single position in the company. And I have somebody alongside me that I've built to 60 to 70% of me. Once I do that, I can step out now and that company runs without me and allows me to go back into the place of being the leader, the visionary, and doing what I love. And when I wake up doing what I love, it's kind of easy to stay motivated. And then having a good purpose and a why. My purpose and my why is my 3-year-old little boy, my family, my wife, and just giving back to my community and be able to impact the generation of our future. So I try to intertwine that and connect that into all of our businesses so it becomes one ecosystem. I'm not just going to work to go to work, but I'm going to work doing the things that I love. And oh, by the way, as a byproduct of doing the things that I love, a part of those profits and proceeds are going to go back. That energy is going to translate into impacting something that's very passionate and important to me, which is impacting youth and the next generation in our country.
That's awesome. I love it. So as you went through that, did you have a lot of people that pushed back on what you did, or, does everyone just super supportive?
Yes.
And how did you deal with it?
Yeah, I think you always get that pushback, right? So you'll get those people, hey, Dave, don't do it. You're doing too much. Hey, just enjoy life. But, to me, I've always found when you got critics, I haven't met too many critics that are doing more than you are. So be careful who you're paying attention to. Surround yourself with the right peers, with the right mentors. I try to keep a rule of 33. Surround myself with only people that got the right positive mental attitude, the right core values that I possess. And I'll try to spend 33% of my time lifting other people up that are below me to help them get to the level that I'm at. 33% of my time with peers that are maybe on my level, collaborating and networking. And then another 33% of my time with, mentors that are already light years beyond where I am today, but they're in the place that I want to be tomorrow. So I'm always learning and I'm always growing when I'm doing that. I'm always sharpening my sword when I'm around other like-minded people like myself. And I'm always fulfilled by elevating and lifting other people and then seeing them get to their dreams by, being maybe a small part of that.
That's cool. I love it. That's awesome. Um, Very cool. Well, in wrapping up, we always have three final questions, and then anything. I know there's some things that I'm sure you really want to touch on that we didn't touch on specifically, that could help our listeners if they're building companies. So first and final question is, if someone's looking for their purpose, what's one sentence you could say that could help them find it?
Yeah, so I'd say if somebody's, looking for their purpose, sometimes it takes a little bit of taking a step back and getting out of the day to day just to reflect. What are the things that make you tick? What are the things that really wake you up in the morning? Like I woke up, or when I first started my first business, I wasn't a kid and growing up saying, "Hey, I want to be an insurance agent one day." That was my passion. But I figured out how to take that opportunity that I knew could be a vehicle to get me to where I wanted to go and make it tie into my passion. How can I do that? So, well, I can bring other young folks into my organization that are looking for a career, maybe don't have a mentor, maybe don't have a father figure, maybe don't have a direction in life, bring them underneath my wing, teach them the ropes. And, we ended up having probably a dozen people spin out of our insurance organization and end up becoming multi-million-dollar business owners, owning their own insurance agencies. To me, that was very fulfilling to take somebody from zero, no direction to, we got one of them, they were flipping burgers at a burger joint, didn't know where they were going to go in life. And now they're up to almost a $20 million reoccurring revenue business 7 years later after, working with us in our organization. So kind of building that in, and then also taking part of the profits to be able to go back and impact in our community the way we want to in a meaningful way. Took something that maybe wasn't necessarily my passion in the beginning and reframed it into a vehicle that got me to the things that really wake me up in the morning and make me tick. And I think I encourage anybody to do that. It's like, how do you take what you have today that might not get you excited and wake you up out of bed, and you can retool and take the things that do get you really moving and going and really get you motivated and integrate that into the ecosystem of that business.
Awesome. Awesome. Number two question is, what's a favorite quote and why?
I'd say one of my favorite quotes, it might be cliche, you probably heard it over and over again, but it's hard work beats talent when talent doesn't want to work hard. Because when I dealt with all my labels and limitations all the way down as a kid, my superpower I discovered it through my first mentor, my dad, and I learned it through osmosis. I just learned it by watching him. He was still to this day the hardest working man that I ever met. And I just seen him just this relentless work ethic. And when I started to emulate that, because I didn't have a lot of God-given talent when it came to academics. I didn't have a lot of God-given talent when it came to playing baseball. I loved the game. I felt more than anybody else when I was growing up, but just didn't have the skills. But I started to realize if I came in and showed up and put in the work at a level that nobody else was willing to do, that I could flip the script. And eventually that hard work and that persistence day after day would turn into confidence, that turned into competence, and then gave me the skill to supersede all of those who are around me. So because of that, I went from being just a terrible baseball player to being one of the few that go on to play college ball, coming out of high school. And, that's what got me there academically. And then when I started at Circuit City, I thought I was starting over, but I was really building on that foundation because I came in there and I outworked everybody in the room and became one of the youngest promoted store managers. I came out of there, went into my first business. And again, my superpower was just running circles around everybody and putting work in that nobody was willing to do. So I always try to get into any room that I'm in, just outwork everybody in the room, just in this relentless way, because I know the byproduct of that is going to be me being on top.
Awesome. And third and final question is, what's one word or sentence you want on your gravestone?
I would say, when I leave this world, I want there to be a legacy. So, if it was going to be on my gravestone that, Dave Williams left tens of thousands of kids better off, because I believe, we still live in the greatest country on earth here, but our country is hurted. We're more dividing than we've ever been. There's more people going down, I'd say, the wrong path than we've ever seen before. And I think a lot of that starts with education. A lot of that starts with, getting the proper foundation, learning the proper skills to go out and just thrive in life, learning the right heart to go out and encourage more people to impact their communities and help those around them. And I think the more we can pour into, when I look at legacy, we can leave things to our kids, or we can instill things that will last in our kids forever. And I want to instill, those values that are most important to me in as many lives as possible, so that there's a ripple effect and a butterfly effect long after I'm gone, that's make a positive effect and impact on this world.
Alrighty. So you run into someone in a coffee shop and they're like, wow, that was a lot of information, a lot of stuff. And hearing your story is inspiring. You're doing lots of amazing things across in lots of different industries. But what's something we didn't touch on today that you just think would be really impactful for our listeners?
Yeah, one thing we didn't touch on today that would be impactful for our listeners, I would say, I think we touched on it a little bit, but I just really find, like, what is the thing that just makes you want to fly out of bed in the morning? What is the thing that just creates that spark in your life, that purpose or passion? And I go back to that because I find so many people that still haven't figured that out as an adult, and so many people that are maybe living in almost life rather than an utmost life. They maybe sacrifice those things that they love, but figure out really what that is, and how you can either, take that next leap to go in a place where you're going more towards your passions, your love, your interest, or maybe be where your feet are and figure out how to integrate that into your today's existence, whether that's in your W-2 job, your current business. Like, how can you make it your ideal scene where you're just waking up and living in minutes and moments every single day, pursuing that passion.
I love it. Guys, I'm sure if you have any questions, you can reach out to David about all the things. But really quick, where's like the best place to find you for them to reach out? I'll have all this stuff in the show notes too.
Oh yeah, absolutely. You can go on Instagram at David Williams Verified is the handle. You can also reach me on a website, bookdavidwilliams.com. That's bookdavidwilliams.com. And that's got a little bit more about my background, some of the projects that I'm involved in, and all my social media on there as well.
That's awesome. Guys, make sure to rate, review, subscribe, share. Let's go out there. If we can change one life or one starfish at a time together, we can change the world. Thanks for being on, David.
Appreciate you. Thank you.